looking at Target Center as Prep 45 continues its coverage of the Minnesota State High School League Boys Basketball Tournament Quarterfinals. I'm Mike Beaton, joined by Tim Allen of Canasupis, and we promise you the game will be a lot louder than what you're seeing right now as Lakeville North and Moorhead do battle. The winner of this game will play the winner of our next game between Eastview and Eden Prairie. In terms of matchups, as the teams take the floor, Lakeville North figures to be the favorite in this game. Lakeville North, the 2 seed, having their best record in school history for boys basketball, 28-1. Historically, they're known for their girls basketball program, who have won 3 state titles and have made several more appearances in the state tournament. So with that in mind, what does it mean for Lakeville North to put together this kind of run and remind folks it's not just our girls that can play?
Well, it's great for the school to see the boys team finally get on par with the girls. They're a very good team, very good on the defensive end of the floor, second in the state, I believe, in points given up per game at around 50, which is fantastic. They're also sending Tyler Flack, one of their front court players, to a Division I school, their first Division I boys basketball player. So it's an exciting time for this program, and you're right there, the heavy favorite against Moorhead today.
Moorhead coming in at 18-9. Had a couple of close ones in their section playoffs, beating St. Michael Abbeville by a mere point and Bemidji 58-52. Didn't play against many metro area teams. Again, their location does not favor them. Looking at that schedule, there is a common opponent, believe it or not, between Lakeville North and Moorhead, and that is Eastview. Moorhead played Eastview back in December, losing 64-46. Lakeville North suffered its only loss against Eastview, 54-48 in January 10th, and then came back to beat them 57-56 on February 10th. Other metro teams that Lakeville or Moorhead played included Stillwater, a 75-64 win, and De La Salle, a 79-39 loss that went to running time. But as we mentioned, Moorhead, figuratively the heavy underdog. What's their mentality?
Well, their best player is Aaron Lean, averaging around 22 points a game. They're going to have to get him going. Lakeville's a very good defensive team, so obviously they're going to be trying to stop Aaron from getting the ball in the hoop. And so Moorhead's going to make a very concerted effort to get him involved early. They don't have a lot of points from other players on this team, only 2 other players in double figures, Matt Ellington and Austin Nelson. They're going to have to get contributions elsewhere, though, because like I said, the defensive intensity of Lakeville is very good, and they're not going to let Aaron Lane beat them all by himself.
And as we introduce the starters, we want to let you know that you can order a DVD copy of this and any of our tournament games from the quarterfinals to the championship round. Just click the purchase DVD link on the Prep 45 screen. Prep 45, your official home of the Minnesota State High School League tournaments. Your school plays here. Moorhead making its 22nd appearance in the state tournament, led by Corey Zimmerman, head coach for his 3rd season, a career record of 31-20. John Oxton leads the Lakeville North Panthers in his 26th season, career record 408 and 255. But just his 2nd appearance, or I should say Lakeville North's 2nd appearance in the state tournament. So these guys don't have much experience on what it's like to play at this level. And that could help Moorhead in this instance.
Yeah, that's going to be an advantage for Moorhead, that experience. Obviously, they don't have the talent advantage, but if they can play smarter and get off to a good start with the better familiarity with the surroundings, I think that'll play to their advantage.
Let's take a look at the starting lineups. Lakeville North, Trey Hyde, number 3 at guard, will be on the floor, along with Joel Oxton, number 13 at guard. Ryan Sorella, number 21 at forward. Grant Erickson, number 22 at guard. And Tyler Flack, who we mentioned, heading to North Dakota.
Yes, that's right. South Dakota.
South Dakota. That's all one state. No, it's all the same thing. No, it's not. Tyler Flack, number 23 at forward. Starting for Moorhead. On the floor, number 12, Matt Ellingson at guard. Number 14, Aaron Lean, who we talked about. At guard, number 34, Austin Nelson at forward. Number 42, Judd Raisler at forward. And number 52, Camden Boshi at center. Lakeville North will wear the red jerseys. The Moorhead Spuds will wear the white jerseys. Of course, Moorhead being known for its unusual nickname. Last week in our girls tournament, we had Sauk Center, who made the 2A finals. The only school to have the nickname Main Streeters, named for author Sinclair Lewis, who wrote the book Main Street Sinclair Lewis,
Right.
a native of Sauk Center, Minnesota. Big difference, though, is he was born back in the 1800s.
Right, right. You know your literature. Very good.
I had to do my research because I called the Sauk Center quarterfinal game at this very building.
Have you read Main Street?
Can't say I've read it. I haven't had time to read much. I've been too busy calling games. I've been packaging games.
Well,
this is hard work.
Once the tournament's over, go to a Barnes & Noble and check it out.
Yes, because there won't be any spring assignments for me, at least in the upcoming weeks. I'll have plenty of time. Actually, I'll have the Lynx coverage starting in a couple weeks after this with the draft. But right now, the focus is here. Lakeville North with the first possession. And the Lakeville North fans are already saying this one's over. We are slowly getting back on schedule after the overtime win by Hopkins over Woodbury. There's a steal by number 12, but he can't put down the layup, and that is Matt Ellingson.
And one advantage that Lakeville also has is a size advantage. Taylor Flack, 6'7", Ryan Cerilla, 6'5". So they have some towering guys down there in the post, and they're going to be looking to get them involved early.
Three-pointer is short from Ryan Cerilla. We're scoreless in the opening minutes.
Both of these teams are known for their defense, so we might not see a very high-scoring affair today. A lot of defense, a lot of rebounding, not a lot of makes.
And speaking of defense, there's a block from Cerilla and a steal by Grant Erickson. Feeding to Cerilla. Turn around. That was a tough shot. And an over-the-back call on Lakeville North. If your prediction proves true, that could also favor Moorhead in terms of scoring, because if Lakeville North doesn't put down many points, Moorhead doesn't have to match them basket for basket.
That's right. And when you get into a lower scoring game, baskets mean more, so luck is a little bit more of a factor. And in this kind of environment, you know, that can change quite significantly.
Mid-range J is short from Aaron Lean, as you hear the Lakeville North fans. And getting hacked is Brett Rasmussen, number 35. He'll shoot a pair.
That's a good foul, though. As a coach, you like to say that when you foul them on the break like that, you want to make sure he doesn't score the basket. He did a nice job of wrapping around the arm, making sure that he couldn't get the shot up where it could go in and make a three-point play. So, smart foul.
Rasmussen averaging 12.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game off the bench. He's a 63% free throw shooter.
And free throws, like our last game that we called, could be a big difference maker here. When you get tight defense, you get fouls, and teams are going to have to step up and make their free throws.
Every possession counts, as always. But as you mentioned, in games with not as much scoring, their significance increases, especially with no shot clock.
Exactly.
Moorhead, if you're not familiar with where it is, I don't blame you. It's in the northwest corner in the state, but I don't blame you, because unless you have some reason to go up there, You probably wouldn't know where it is. Getting the kiss off the glass is Camden Boshi. He knew where he was on the floor.
Right, very good shot. Against some tough Lakeville defense already. They're rotated out the shooters very well. Not allowing a lot of easy penetration, but a good shot there.
And a nice turnaround fadeaway from Grant Erickson. It's 3-2 in favor of Lakeville North. Moorhead actually part of a junior Twin Cities area, so to speak, bordering with Fargo, North Dakota, home to many colleges, North Dakota, MSU Moorhead, Concordia College, the MIAC member. Fargo Dome is nearby.
It's not a bad area when it's not 20 below zero.
Layups paying off for Moorhead. That's Aaron Lean on the basket. I was going to say, I don't think there was a 20 below up there this winter.
Not this winter.
More like 20 degrees above average. Double dribble violation on Tyro Newell. Hayden Anderson, number 50, steps in the game for the Spuds. He's a 6'4" senior center. And like the last game we called, and with all these games today, especially for the underdogs, the longer they stay in contention, the more confident they become. And we saw that with Woodbury taking Hopkins all the way to overtime.
Exactly. You don't get this far without playing good basketball. And so when you get close, teams are going to do what they do best, default to their strengths. And great shot right there for Moorhead.
Austin Nelson makes the three-pointer. Newell with a bounce pass over to Trey High. That's actually Brett Rasmussen, and he muscles his way, draws the foul. He'll shoot a pair.
And if you notice, the Moorhead player, number 14, he tried to close out on the double team, but he was a little too late. When you want to trap it down low like that, when you bring the double team low like that, you got to do it quick. Not when the player's already underneath the basket.
Rasmussen makes the first. Lakeville North picked up their first conference title in school history this year, winning the South Suburban. It's unusual when you have a boys basketball program that lives in the shadow of the girls, but in the case of Lakeville North, that's been exactly the case over the last decade or so.
But not this year. This very good Lakeville team.
It's not the first time that's happened. There was the St. Paul Central girls team that had their big title run back-to-back in 07 and 08, overpowering the boys team. Minneapolis South when they won in 09. Another three-pointer is pure from Austin Nelson. He has 6. He's favoring the left corner. And Moorhead up 10-5 over Lakeville North.
Like I said, they're going to have to find offense from somewhere else, and right now it looks like it's going to be Nelson, that corner three.
Newell fights his way for the offensive rebound and races in for the layup. We see a full court press being run by Lakeville North, trying to get that 10-second call.
The sloppy passing from Moorhead.
Lean has it. Using up the dribble is Eric By. And Corey Zimmerman calls a timeout to avoid a 5-second violation. And we look at some of the moments and people at the 100-year celebration of the boys state tournament. And one of the best coaches they put up was Chisholm. His name will have to flash up on the screen because I just forgot it again. But coached at Chisholm for over 50 years, never had a technical foul, never had a drink, which is what he attributed to his longevity.
Okay.
A nearly 60-year career as a head coach.
You said you only had one technical foul or 0 technical fouls?
None.
Wow.
Never been called for one.
That's
Which is interesting.
That's discipline.
Yeah, especially when some coaches will sometimes pick up a technical to try to rally the troops.
Exactly.
Sometimes it works. Personally, I'm not a fan.
Did this coach win, or was he just disciplined?
Oh, he won. He won many
okay.
games. He's been a big-time winner. He won several state titles in the 70s.
Well, there you go. Can't argue with it then.
But even so, I understand you don't want to rally the troops, but at the same time, you get called for a technical, you give your opponent a chance to put up more points. Yeah. And if I'm coaching, I don't want to give any opponent any chance to score. And I'm guessing Lakeville North wants to make sure they shut down Aaron Lean, who got the layup. Moorhead up 12-7. And the pass is stolen by Eric By. Zach Creighton missed his target. We're seeing a similar start like we did in the Hopkins-Woodbury game earlier in this quarterfinal day.
That was more of an offensive back and forth. This is more of a defensive back and forth, but you're right. An underdog team that's up early, and it looks like they have Lakeville a little bit out of their comfort zone offensively, at least. Moorhead's an underrated defensive team. They only give up about 56 points per game, so still not still a pretty good defensive squad.
And you could argue, well, that's against schools that don't play in the Metro, but as you mentioned, you still got to play well if you're going to make this state tournament. There has been talk about seeding the 4A field NCAA tournament style. The girls, we have a steal here by Lean, and he's going inside to Boshi. We're not seeing a lot of fast break transition play. Both teams favoring to run half-court sets.
And I think a lot of that has to do with good defense cutting off transition attempts as well.
That's right. Three-pointer, no good by Ellingson, and the offensive rebound, no putback from By. Creighton. Over to Grant Erickson. You know there's been great defense when we have yet to call Tyler Flack's name.
Right.
I don't think he's had a single touch. And I see why. I'm looking at the Moorhead defense. They're running a zone formation, swarming Creighton, or swarming Flack.
They're swarming them, and also they're kind of packing that strong side. They have about 3 defenders on either side, and it's not great spacing from the Moorhead team. Excuse me, from the Lakeville team.
And there's Tyler Flack. We finally call his name as he gets a steal. Erickson, over to Creighton. Trey Hyde has it. And now Tyler Flack with his first offensive touch. No good.
That was good defense from Camden Boshi. Straight up, didn't foul. Made the shot tough for Tyler Flack.
And Zach Creighton will be hit with the foul, trying to get the steal from Matt Ellingson. 10:23 left in the first half.
And one thing you want to see as well is we saw a lot of fouling from Woodbury. Right now we don't have a ton of fouls for either team. They're good at defending without fouling, which is a very good skill to have. A lot of teams can't do that. They have to foul in order to play good defense. These teams aren't gambling, they're not reaching, they're just playing good straight up defense like that.
Jump ball, possession arrow favors Moorhead. We could have an interesting scenario depending on the second semifinal. We could have a South Suburban showdown between Lakeville North and Eastview. But they got to play the games first.
Yeah, Lakeville's got to beat this Moorhead squad. They're not taking it easy on them.
Three-pointer, swish. Austin Nelson continuing to favor the left corner, and Lakeville North has yet to collapse on him. He has 9 points.
He has more than the Lakeville squad himself. Corner tray is looking good.
Your mathematics continue to do you well. Baseline drive, and getting hacked is Trey Hyde. He will shoot a pair. Trey Hyde, a 63% free throw shooter.
Foul on Lean. You don't want to get him in foul trouble. He's as I said before, their leading scorer. Right now he only has 4 points, but you know, late when they step up that defensive intensity, you're going to need his scoring presence, his penetration. So he's taking him out right now.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Do you mind doing math? Because I'm looking at Austin Nelson's shooting numbers. It's 43.7. They don't have his three-point percentage figured out, but coming into this game, 52 of 131, and he's already made 3.
52 of 131. That's
less than 50%.
It's not quite 50, but that's pretty good.
Well, as you said, his point total currently matches the Lakeville North point total, and that is 9. Lakeville North wanted to travel. I just love the basket mics. I can hear so much of what's going on the floor. And a heads-up play by Judd Ressler.
Keeps the possession alive for Moorhead.
And of the games that I've seen, I didn't see much of the Osseo Duluth East game, but I came back, saw that Duluth East made the big run. We're seeing a lot more parity in this 4A bracket than I did for the girls' games. You see teams that aren't expected to win, at least are putting up a fight.
And Aaron Lean's back in the game.
Lean with 1 foul, 4 points. Deflected by Rasmussen.
They're looking for Nelson in that corner once again.
And Rasmussen says, not this time. Find another player. And this time Nelson with a touch, and they're right on him. But Camden Boshi penetrates to the paint, and he will shoot a pair.
Boshi's a tough cover down there. He's a very big kid. Could force his way in pretty easily, and they had to foul to stop the 2 points that time.
Boshi, 51% free throw shooter, averages 8 points and 5.7 rebounds a game. As you might expect out of a post-accurate field goal shooter, 59.3%. But he leaves both empty.
Both were long, very long, hitting the back iron.
At least you know he isn't tired.
Right. Fatigue
a factor, more so in the girls' sport than the boys, but boys aren't immune either. Missing the layup is high because the court here is 10 feet longer than a standard high school court. Right. NBA dimensions are 94 feet long, high school dimensions 84 feet long. We also talk about depth perception.
Yeah, it's a lot different shooting in here.
Lean, bullseye. And Austin Nelson's not the only three-point sharpshooter. Moorhead up 18-9.
And Lakeville not closing out very well on those three-point attempts. Fairly open look for a lead.
And the more Moorhead can get looks from three-point range, the more it will open up their inside attack.
And as you said before, as they build this lead, that confidence is just gonna grow for them. 9 points right now.
And getting the cleanup, Ryan Sorella.
Those second chance attempts will turn that momentum pretty quickly, so nice play from Lakeville. Again, Nelson in that corner. Couldn't get the shot that time, though. Good defense.
The Lakeville North defense has picked up on it. Mid-range day short from Matt Ellingson. Erickson kicks out. Lakeville North passing around the perimeter. Entry pass not successful, but Sorella maintains possession. Here's Rasmussen, he's double teamed. That means someone is open. Rasmussen finds the open man, and it's Hyde. Bullseye.
When you get trapped, swing that ball, you're gonna find somebody who's wide open, and they did. An easy three.
Lakeville North trims the lead to 4. And Moorhead can't counter. Missing that shot was Judd Ressler. Lakeville North on the verge of a run here. High, that was close to a travel. And nearly losing the handle is Joel Oxton, but Lakeville North maintains possession. Spin move and the finish.
Pretty finish.
Grant Erickson, and Lakeville North has scored the last 7 points.
A nice spin move, and this is why I was saying you got to take advantage of chances when you're Moorhead, because now they've cut the lead to 2, and all that good momentum you had early in the game is suddenly gone.
Corey Zimmerman calls timeout, 18-16 in favor of the Spuds. We mentioned Lakeville North alumni, not many in boys basketball as there are in girls basketball. With that being said, Lakeville North has produced a lot of talent. We talked about Lisbeth Dominic. If you go back long enough, she helped Lakeville when they were a single school win championships in 2001 and 2002. Cassie Rochelle, who is playing at the University of Wisconsin, hasn't played a whole lot since she got there. But one player who has received much playing time and is slowly getting the attention of the national writers is Rachel Banham, who was the Big Ten Player of the Year and led in nearly every major category among freshmen in the BCS conferences.
It's pretty impressive.
Problem was, she didn't have much support around her this season, so Minnesota's record didn't reflect her play.
Right.
But if it wasn't for her, the Gophers wouldn't even be relevant. So Banham is changing a few things over there.
For Lakeville North, it's 4, Tyrell Newell, 11, Devin Shockley, 23, Tyler Flack.
And it's nice to see Lakeville North putting together this kind of year, trying to get a culture for boys basketball too. And the Moorhead threes that were falling early are coming up short now. Raisler missed again, but the possession will stay with Moorhead.
They put together a nice play. They got Raisler in a wide open look. He just couldn't capitalize. So out of the timeout, they got a nice play, but they still couldn't get any points out of it. Like you said, second chance attempt though right here.
Most of the scoring has come from Lean and Nelson, and that hasn't helped Moorhead's case. Obviously, they want to balance the scoring, find a few more targets, because they can't win with just 2 players.
That's what you would expect, though. Those are their 2 best scorers on the season. That's where they would go to for most of their points, but you're right, they got to spread it out to some other players here if they want a chance to win.
And Eric Bai is smacked. Foul on Lakeville North, 18-16, 5:37 left in the first half in a quick moving game.
Very quick, not a lot of fouling, a lot of good defense.
Now we're hoping to have Richard Coffey, the color commentator for KSTC 45, join us in the booth at halftime. He'll give us a preview of what's to come on KSTC Channel 45, our big brother. And the ball's stuck. Not for long. I guess the ball needed to take a timeout. It was getting tired out there.
Right.
It was taking a beating. I got to rest for a moment. So the ball used up its timeout.
It only gets one of those in the game.
Oh, well, I'm not quite sure, but
have a 20-second timeout.
Yes, 20-second timeout with the ball. So what they rule is a jump ball, and Lakeville North had the possession arrow.
Back door.
Bounce pass inside to Flack, and he's too strong. But on the other end was Ryan Sorella, and he'll go to the line for 2.
And once again, some good interior defense on Tyler Flack, not letting him back in, not letting him get an easy shot. That time it was Hayden Anderson who was forcing him outside of his area where he likes to operate. So he had to take that tough turnaround fadeaway. Fortunately for Lakeville, they get the second chance attempt and the foul. Free throws, excuse me.
Sorella missing his first, and 79.8% shooter from the charity stripe. Accurate field goal shooter as well, 56%. In fact, both of the post players in for Lakeville North as Sorella gets the bounce are solid field goal and free throw shooters. And you're really seeing that change in the post game. We were joking about Shaquille O'Neal and his lack of free throw conversions. You mentioned Dwight Howard.
Right.
some of those other big post players who could not shoot a free throw to save their life. You're seeing that change. More and more centers are focusing on getting those free throws to fall, which makes sense because you're at the paint a lot, you're going for a lot of layups, your arm gets hit all the time, you draw fouls.
And you become a big liability at the end of games if you can't make free throws.
Where do you think the hack-a-shack strategy came from?
Exactly. It's almost to the point where you don't want those guys even on the floor. And then if you can't have your best player on the floor at the end of the game, that really hurts your team, obviously. So,
Hayden Anderson, go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys like Dirk, guys like Kevin Love, they're very, very good free throw shooters. So you're right, big guys are working on those shots. Still not maybe the Andrew Bynums of the world or the Dwight Howards of the world, but you're right, it is improving.
Hayden Anderson was trapped and he got out of it by bouncing the ball off of Flack. Austin Nelson can't hit it from the right corner, but an offensive rebound by Nick Anderson. Actually, that's Judd Raisler. Lean. Feeding inside to Boshi, and he comes up short. He just did not have great position. And look at that fight for the rebound. And Lakeville North wants it to go their direction, and it very well could have been if Hayden Anderson had 2 more inches. He was racing for it, fell over, and he was lucky he didn't touch the ball before it went out of bounds.
Yeah, the ref must have seen the ball hit the out of bounds line before the Moorhead player touched it. Close call.
So another opportunity here for the Spuds, and Austin Nelson makes the most of it. His 4th tray of the game.
And that's what happens when you get extra possessions. Sometimes you wind up with shots like that.
Lakeville North can't counter, but an offensive rebound by Flack. He's too strong though on the putback, and he can't save it in time.
You can see that Tyler Flack is looking a little frustrated right now. He's not getting easy shots. Doesn't have any points so far. He's really been limited by the Moorhead defense.
Lean. Now Ellingson. Actually, that is Ellingson. Sometimes the program names. We have a hazard timeout. Blood on the elbow of Hayden Anderson, and we certainly can't have that. So he will be subbed out as they patch him up.
22, Judd Raisler back in. For the Panthers, it's 3 Trey Hyde.
Officials are always on that, and I appreciate that. Safety first.
Definitely got to keep the game clean and safe.
And draining the runner is Matt Ellingson, and that's what Moorhead needs to get more players involved in the scoring. And coming down right on the other end, almost immediately, Ryan Sorella, and we stay at a 4-point margin.
That missed shot was off enough, but they had rebounders down. It was basically an assist to his post ball.
Ellingson gets a friendly bounce. He'll be sending a thank you card to the rim. Rim's going to get quite a few thank you cards after this tournament.
Generous rims here at the Target Center.
Well, how do you think Kevin Love puts up such big numbers?
Right.
We have a foul away from the ball. It's going to go against Judd Raisler.
And as the first half comes to a close here, Moorhead needs to keep up this intensity. If they could push that lead to 10, it would be great heading into the break. In terms of Lakeville, they want to keep moving the ball around, get Flack involved, get him some points, get him a nice opportunity before the end of this half.
There was no foul call. It must have been another safety timeout, and Lakeville North throws it away. Even if they're not up by 10, I think the fact that Moorhead has gone in front and stayed in front throughout this first half is starting to shake the mentality of Lakeville North.
It is. Lakeville's made some very poor passes here in the last few possessions. Careless turnovers, and that's not going to help you catch up.
Lakeville North on a full court press.
Speaking
and it
of
pays
careless
off.
Turnovers.
Trey Hyde, one-on-one, draws the foul, and he'll go to the line. Hyde, 63% free throw shooter, averaging 6 points and 3 rebounds per game this season.
Ellingson is first. 16 foul. Hyde, 2 shots.
The player makes his first free throw. I haven't seen that in a while, it seems like.
Free throws have come at a premium for a few teams. And there's Ken Novak Jr., considered one of the best coaches, and there you see his 6 state titles that he has won in 12 tournament appearances for Hopkins, looking to make it 7 of 13. If you were a baseball player, that'd be a very fine average. Bob McDonald, that's who it was from Chisholm. The Bob Barker of prep sports, if you will, in terms of longevity.
Another careless turnover from Moorhead. This is not how you want to go into the halftime break.
Lakeville North will feed off of that. Grant Erickson. Theoretically, Lakeville North could hold for the final shot, but I don't think they're going to with just under 2 minutes here. Here's Rasmussen, double teamed. Can't draw the foul, but he gets a tough layup.
And once again, a poor double team from Moorhead. They allow space for the offensive player to get through. You got to close off of that gap, or the double team is just not going to do much for you.
Here's Lean. He pulls up. That was a contested shot, and the rebound goes to Rasmussen. Lakeville North can tie it. They held the lead briefly. Rasmussen fouled and one.
Lakeville currently on a 6-0 run. Could make it a 7-0 run with this free throw. That's good momentum headed into the break. This is not how Moorhead wanted this to go down with about a minute left.
And Lakeville North takes the lead 26-25. When Lakeville North presses, I notice that's when Moorhead gets frazzled.
Well, they do it pretty well.
And look at that from Camden Boshi, shaking his defender. Easy layup.
That's what happens when you beat the press. Sometimes you have easy one-on-one or even open layups down low for your big men. Cameron Boshi did a nice job of finishing.
Three-pointer on the way is short from Trey Hyde, and the rebound by Boshi. Let's see if Moorhead decides to hold for the final shot.
I think that's the smart move. Neither one is playing great offensive basketball right now, so you give yourself the last chance. Don't turn it over. Don't allow Lakeville the chance to go into halftime with the lead.
.15 seconds. Lean has it. Trying to shake Hyde, and he does get hacked by number 13, Joel Oxton. Lakeville North had 2 fouls to give. They could decide to use one more here, try to eat up some more time.
It's a nice job of Lean to dribble out of that trap. It looked like he was in trouble for a split second there, but dribbled out, got the foul, saved a turnover.
Nelson to inbound. Or as they're starting to call an NBA broadcast now, side out.
Side out.
It's not just a volleyball term, folks. Lean is bumped again. And will they rule out a shooting foul? It appears so. They do.
Yep.
So Moorhead with a chance to put some points on the board and not even have to put up a shot.
And Aaron Lean, again, great job keeping the dribble alive, not turning it over. drawing the foul.
Lean, a 78% free throw shooter.
Still time for Lakeville to attempt something down the court with about 3 seconds left. We'll see what they do if Lean misses or makes this shot.
But that gives Moorhead some momentum as Lakeville North was on their way, took the lead for a moment, and now Moorhead is back in front here. Lakeville North does have time for a shot. They can get in good position. They do. Three-pointer on the way is short, but a good look from Joel Oxton.
Very good look. Good pass down court as well. That was a great job finding his teammate, and they got a good look.
And Moorhead takes a 29-26 lead over Lakeville North. We're looking to see if Richard Coffey is on his way up, and if, well, now I see him. It's going to be a couple of minutes. But as we said, Moorhead, the underdog, and we're seeing a theme here. The underdog up at halftime, and certainly the favorites aren't just letting them hang around and playing possum here. We're just seeing some really good basketball and a lot of good parity.
Exactly. Moorhead's playing very good defense to match Lakeville's. They hit some open shots, got some corner threes. Aaron Lean is starting to play pretty good basketball, and they're sticking right with this Lakeville squad up 3. Good first half.
And how about Austin Nelson, 4 3-pointers. And at one point, he had more points than Lakeville North did as an entire team. I have to imagine the defense will be keying on him in the second half.
They will be keying in on him. I think Moorhead has to continue to try to get him easy baskets.
So here he comes. He found his way up here through the maze we call Target Center. But he found his way up here. Well, we figured he would. He used to, in his playing days, I think he made his residence here. We're talking about Richard Coffey, who's our color analyst for KSTC Channel 45. Richard, glad you were able to find us up here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Now, you've been quite familiar with Target Center over the last couple of years. Of course, the big story, your daughter's winning back-to-back state championships. So just tell us, after they won 2 in a row, what was your mood? It seemed like you were a bit more relaxed this year than this time a year ago.
Yes, it's been a fun couple years for our family. The 2 girls, Sydney and Nia, have been both successful with the Hopkins girl basketball team, and there's so many great players on that girls basketball team. There's probably about 8 or 9 Division I players on that team, so it's just not about Sydney and Nia, it's about the entire team, and there's so many special kids on that team. But it's just been a fun time for our family and all of the families that are part of that Hopkins girls basketball team. And
I swear the girls and boys teams have to be studying each other and mimicking each other. When we called that Hopkins-Woodbury game, that was a very fast-paced game. And what have you seen so far in the first few games today, as I know you're prepping for your...
Well, I tell you, this 4A bracket is pretty special this year. There's a lot of good competition, and I think we can have some really good games in the 4A bracket this year. And so far today, we've had just that. That first game, Hopkins and Woodbury. Woodbury came out and did a great job playing really hard with a lot of energy and actually had a great shot to win that game towards the end. Unfortunately for them, they just missed several free throws. If they had made some free throws, that game would not have went into overtime and they would have won.
And that was a huge scare for Hopkins. And even the second game, Duluth East, one of their players got suspended, and they put up a fight with Osseo for a considerable amount of time.
Well, they did, and you just can imagine if the player that they had suspended was here, if that would have been a different outcome. Osseo has a strong team, and they played extremely well. But, you know, Duluth East, especially in the first half, you know, they played an extremely well ball game and had a great chance to win. They let up a little in the second half, and Osseo played probably more consistent throughout the entire game and ended up winning the basketball game.
And even in this game, Moorhead, you figured, would be the heavy underdog, and they're holding their own right now against the number 2 seed in 4A.
Well, again, you know, coming into this game, everybody probably thought that Lakeville would run away with it, but Moorhead is doing a great job at not only staying in the game, but leading at halftime. And that's a great thing about the state tournament. You know, if you can make it to the state tournament, it's really a new season. Regardless of what your record were during the regular season, you're here now, and you feel like you got a chance to go all the way and win a state championship. So kids really come out and play 110% trying to make it to that next game. You know, the theme right now is to survive in advance. That's all you have to do each game.
I've heard that phrase before. I wonder where I got it from.
I'm sure. I'm sure you heard that before.
Now, I asked you this last year, and I'll bring this up again and see if it's changed. Is it still more nervous to watch your daughters play this court than it is calling the games for 45 and having perhaps millions of people listening to you?
Whenever you have a kid playing and you can't control what happens on the basketball court, it's always nerve-wracking. You know, I spent a lot of time in the gym over the years with Sydney and Nia, just trying to teach them the skill of basketball and making sure that they were fundamentally sound. But whenever they're out there on the basketball court, it's always nerve-wracking because you can't do anything to help them at that point. You just have to hope that they take some of those things that you taught them over the years and they use it to their ability. And they did a great job at that this weekend.
Now, you did spend some time here in the NBA. It wasn't a very long period, but you did get here nonetheless. How do you think your professional experience has helped you become the person you are as you lead your offspring and continue to make your mark in basketball?
Well, just those experiences. Whenever you have experiences in different areas of your life, it always kind of molds who you eventually will become. And just playing with the Timberwolves for that year, it was a great experience for me. I met a lot of great people. And, you know, that's something that most basketball players in the world would like to have a chance to do, play in the NBA. And I can say that I was one of those guys that actually had a chance to live my dream, albeit for a year, but it was a great year of my life and something that I will always look back on as one of the best years of my life.
And it's something I think a lot of folks can lose track of because you see a lot of the NBA highlights on SportsCenter, the run from Jeremy Lin. Everyone talks about all the big names, and I think sometimes people forget not a lot of players can sustain themselves for that long. It takes a lot of skill even just to get there.
It takes a lot of skill to get there. It takes even more skill to stay. And especially in today's time with all of these kids getting a lot of basketball training and a lot of kids specializing in their sports even earlier than ever now, you get kids that are, and parents as well, that are getting their kids basketball training, they're staying focused on basketball and playing basketball year-round. So kids are a lot better in high school now than they even were 10 years ago. So it's a new day, it's a new time, and if you find a kid that is willing to put in the time and has some athletic ability, he can give himself a really good shot to be successful in basketball.
Now the big focus this year, the 100 years of state tournament basketball. I'm sure you would rank your two daughters' state titles up there, but girls or boys, what are some other teams or moments that has stood out for you following prep basketball?
We know I've always followed Hopkins, and they've had some really big moments in the state tournament. I remember
6 state titles since the turn of the decade.
Exactly. I remember Hoffarber hit the shot off his back over there in the corner to send it to overtime. And then you had those North Polars back in the early 2000s with Khalid El-Amin. They had some great teams, and he was a great player in the state of Minnesota here. So those are some of the memories I have of just being at those games and watching some of those games.
In fact, the Timberwolves are offering a contest for anybody who can recreate Hoffarber's shots. Yeah. It was something he somewhat replicated when he was with the Gophers against Indiana. So it was his practice.
I remember that. I remember that. He has the knack of hitting some big shots, and he's done it over and over.
And going back a little further, you mentioned the Minneapolis North dynasty. Patrick Henry, the first school to win 4 state titles. Hopkins could be the second. No school has done it in 4A. And we're just seeing, I think, more parity than we've ever had before. I remember even when Johnson got their undefeated title a few years back, they had to fight it out with Grand Rapids just to do it.
Yeah. You know, in today's society, there's just there's a lot of kids out there playing, you know, at different levels, and they're getting so much training. You know, some of the bigger schools, you know, they load up and have, you know, 3 or 4 guys that can play. And in basketball, all you really need is 1 or 2 guys to really have a good team. But if you can get 3 or 4 guys on a team, then you can really have a super team. And I think we see that with some of the teams in today.
Now, you've been involved with our big brother, KSTC Channel 45, the last few years. What can we expect from this year's slate of broadcasts? I know they'll probably celebrate the 100 years, but anything else in the works?
Well, you're right. They're doing a lot of 100-year celebrations, and we're going to talk about each decade through that 100 years and recognize some players and some big shots and the top coaches and things like that. But it's always fun to work with Dave Lee. He's just a constant professional, and he does a great job at his skills, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with him over the next 3 days and working with him.
You can catch all that, of course, starting on Thursday from the semifinals to the championship round. And before you go, because intermission's about to wrap up, I asked your daughters this, I'm going to ask you this too. Anyone you want to say hi to that might be listening to this webcast?
Well, there's a lot of people out there. I just want to thank all of the Hopkins fans for supporting the girls basketball team throughout the years and the boys basketball team at Hopkins now. It's been a great run for our girls and boys program, and I want to give a shout out to Johnny at Noodles as well, because he has always taken care of the girls in the Hopkins program, and he's an awesome guy.
I've heard a lot of plugs for Johnny from Noodles. I'm sure it's like, he must love this because he's getting free plugs now the last couple of years as a result of our coverage. Richard Coffey, you can catch him starting at the semifinal round on KSTC Channel 45. He'll be there through the championship round. Thanks for stopping by, and have fun scouting the rest of the 4A bracket.
Thanks for having me.
So as we turn the mic back over to Tim Allen, we can inform you that intermission's about to wrap up. Moorhead up 29-26 over Lakeville North. The winner gets the winner of the Eastview Eden Prairie game. And Tim, we mentioned Austin Nelson leading the way, looking at Lakeville North. Scoring is balanced, but I don't think they're too thrilled about that right now because they're trailing by 3.
They are trailing by 3. They've had some rough play early on, turned the ball over a little bit too much, haven't shot very well. We'll see what adjustments they make in the second half. They're only down 3. And scoring-wise, the other team's about on par for a little under 60 points, so scoring a little bit above what Lakeville gives up usually.
And we want to remind you, if you want to order a DVD copy of this and any of our tournament games from any sport, from the quarterfinals to the championship round, click the Purchase DVD link on the right side of the Prep 45 screen. Prep 45, your official online home of the Minnesota State High School League tournaments. Your school plays here. Moorhead will start the second half with possession. They were wearing the white jerseys. Lakeville North wearing the red. Lakeville North, the number 2 seed, coming in at 28-1, and Moorhead not backing down at all. A nice inside feed to Boshi.
The first possession of the second half is an easy basket for Moorhead. That can't be a good sign for Lakeville.
That's not what they were looking for, to say the least.
They get an easy basket of their own, though. Answer right back. Maybe we'll have an offensive half.
That was Grant Erickson on the score. I wouldn't mind some offense. Of course, I don't mind defense either. If it's good basketball, sign me up. I don't care. Offense, defense. And look at that runner from Aaron Lean.
That's a great shot right there. That's why Aaron Lean averages about 22 points a game. Good plays like that. It's able to really make a play on the ball with that penetration, not just get in the lane, but finish once he's in there.
Well, I think your prediction about this being an offensive half might be right. Grant Erickson runs through the paint and scores.
Yeah, we've seen 3 easy baskets so far.
Defense, what's that? Maybe they watched the tape of the All-Star game before coming back out?
Maybe they did.
Highest scoring half in history this year, if I recall, in the NBA?
What is it?
Boshi. No, I think this year. I was referring to this year's All-Star game because I think the West had 88 points.
You're correct.
I don't think we're going to get that high in any of our games today, but
that would be hard.
Well, they're actually playing defense. At least they were for half.
We'll see if these teams can get to 88 combined. They're at 63 right now.
I think we'll get that. I think we'll get that mark. Rasmussen, no.
And there we go. That's the defensive intensity we saw in the first half. It's picking up.
Well, you might have a second career as an announcer. You might want to give 45 a call. Whoops. That was a little shovel pass to absolutely nobody. Unfortunately, since nobody is not on the roster, that counts as a turnover for Moorhead.
Good. That's good.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't any nobodies on your Ultimate Hoops League.
Not that I'm aware of. We may have had a few, but they didn't get
well, you
many
didn't
minutes.
pass to them, right?
I didn't pass to them. Froze them out every single game.
Tyler David in the game for Lakeville North, and missing the 16-footer is Tyler Flack.
Tyler Flack still scoreless on the game.
That's surprising, but as we've said, the state tournament, we've seen some things you don't expect to see. Hopkins having to win the game with Siani Chambers and free throws, and then Osseo having to fight off a Duluth East team who was written off after losing one of their top players to suspension. Tyler Flack, he gets stripped.
You can see that Lakeville is trying to do more. It's Tyler Flack, but they're
Nelson Deline short.
But Camden Boshi is playing Flack very well.
We'll see if that has an influence when the game ends. David over to Erickson, over to Hyde. Flack. He gets fouled by Boshi this time.
This has been a nice matchup to watch. Boshi on Tyler Flack. He's guarded him very well so far. Flack has a chance for his first points, but he has not gotten anything easy so far today.
And you have to imagine neither player really had a chance to look at each other coming into this game because of Moorhead's location.
Right.
It's more common when you get to the smaller classes, especially in Class A, when you have schools that come from the rural parts of the state and a few metro schools scattered around. But in 4A, it's rare. And so looking at this matchup, I don't think Boshi or Flack really scouted each other at all. I can't assume they did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're aware of their stats and their tendencies, and they probably looked at stuff like that, but you're right, not a whole lot of actual watching how these guys play. Boshi is taken out of the game on that free throw, so we'll see how the defensive scheme might change.
And Flack will be hit. That field or free throw make of his was his first point of the game, we should note. Held scoreless in the first half. And Hayden Anderson, who also has yet to score, is at the line. As we mentioned, Moorhead will probably need some more support down the stretch here if they're going to pull off an upset. We've come close a couple of times.
Yeah,
Osseo did pull away late in the second, but
right. Yeah, Aaron Lean and Austin Nelson aren't going to be able to carry everything in this second half. They're good offensive players, but they can't do it all.
And so while Anderson is a 50% free throw shooter, he makes both here, and that gives Moorhead a 35-31 edge. Flack for three. Yes! And a timeout called as it's a 35-34 lead. Tyler Flack finding an offensive rhythm now, finally getting his first field goal. And if I'm Corey Zimmerman, I might be sweating a little bit.
Hayden Anderson just left Flack alone in the three-point line. He was wide open, no defender in sight. They found him. Maybe Anderson didn't know that Flack could shoot from three-point range. He thought he could lay off him a little bit. But
well, we're talking about how posts have improved in free throw shooting. We're seeing a few also go to the three-point game.
Right.
Kevin Love, one example. Many people are surprised about all the threes he shoots, but when you scout the Wolves, that's how he scores, either putbacks or step-back three-pointers.
Yep, Kevin Love, Ryan Anderson. I think it started with Dirk. People probably watched him and tried to emulate his game. There are a lot more stretch fours and fives, certainly in the NBA, but even in other divisions now. I think it's becoming a more popular trend as people see these guys and new kids want to emulate that, so we should see a lot more coming up.
And even in the WNBA, they might not necessarily shoot threes. You're seeing that out of the post players. And Tina Thompson, considered the quintessential example of a post who shifted the game from pure inside layups and bunnies to extending, throwing in a mix of perimeter shots.
Right. I don't think you'll see Cam Beige going out to the three-point line all that much anytime soon, but
give her time. Yeah, she might need to, the way Tulsa has been. It's been a rough go for the Tulsa Shock.
Yes, it is.
Driving inside, can't get the roll, is Ellingson. And now action's starting to get a little chippier. I think my voice just cracked.
And once again, that's like I was saying in the last game, Tyler Flack gets that rebound. You don't need to contest that at that point. You're just going to give yourself a cheap foul, and you're not going to get much benefit out of that. You're going to steal that very rarely. So, again, just give up, go back, play defense on the other end.
But since when did players play the percentages? I think it'd be 99 times out of 100 that play could not work, and they'll focus on the one time it does.
Right. Well, that's coaching right there.
Hayden Anderson picks up his second foul. No player in any deep foul trouble yet. Fouls were not that common in the first half, so no one has to get too worried just yet.
This isn't quite Woodbury Hopkins, where Woodbury had 2 of their best players foul out of the game in overtime.
And another Moorhead foul. It's on Lean, his second.
And they brought Boshi back on Tyler Flack. He was doing such a good job, but they wanted to put him back on.
And Tyler David hits the tray from the right side. Lakeville North with a 37-35 lead. We have seen it in our first 2 games where the trailing team, usually the one with the higher seed, finds a second half run and pulls out with the win. Jump ball, Lakeville North with the possession arrow. We've seen these underdogs, so to speak, the unseeded teams unable to sustain the run they put up early on.
Yeah, and you see that in all levels where you'll see a 16 seed go into the half with a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, tied or not losing by very much, and then in the end, the experience and the talent wins out. You'll see that at other levels, and I think you're seeing that a little bit here, where Moorhead comes out fired up. They're able to get some good shots, turn the ball over. That defensive intensity wins out, but Lakeville is the more talented team, and right now I think you're seeing that kind of rise.
But on occasion, you do run into your Norfolk States or your Lehighs.
Exactly. It's not over for sure.
David switches down the long drain. And another timeout from Corey Zimmerman. Lakeville North leading 39-35. And as we talked about, Moorhead just not finding much offense outside of their 2 catalysts. Lakeville North spreading the ball around, and it's paying off.
Yeah, Lakeville's starting to find those seams, starting to find some open shots, and it's a good timeout to get Moorhead more relaxed and tell them, look, we got to shut this down before this lead turns into anything more than it is. With Moorhead's offense, they're not going to be able to come back from a large margin. They got to keep it close here.
We're seeing another trend. It's starting to creep into high school ball. More common in college basketball, the oversized faces. I see a couple over on the Moorhead student section. I don't see as many in the Lakeville North student section, but
the Los Lobos at the Timberwolves games are pioneering that effort this season.
And
for
we
the
saw
Wolves,
saw a few at the barn during Gophers games.
Right.
That's a wonder. I know we've got you on board for Lynx coverage this season, we hope, with Candace Hoopus. Do you think we'll see that when the Lynx starts, some big faces?
We might, hopefully. It seems like a fun trend, you know. Who doesn't want to see a life-size or a huge face cutout of Kim Kardashian or Jesse the Body Ventura? Who doesn't get inspired by that kind of stuff, right?
As long as it's not you, right, on one of those faces?
Exactly. Well, nobody wants to see that. That would not inspire anybody. So
I'm even lower on the totem pole. Lean gets fouled. I believe it was a shooting foul. No, it was not a shooting foul. The foul is on Lakeville North's Devin Shockley. He's a 6'1" senior guard. Lean, short, rebound Flack.
They ran Lean around a pair of screens there to try to get him open, but Lakeville stuck with him. Good defense.
There's Tyler David, the 6' senior guard. Flack thought about it on the right elbow. Goes to Rasmussen instead. David over to Erickson. Feeding inside to Rasmussen. And that's deflected, but right to the hands of David. Flack, spin move, loses control, and can't put down the layup. Just not great positioning.
He's got to be a little bit more composed when he makes that move.
Boshi over to Lean, inside to Hayden Anderson, who gets the bounce. Anderson with his first field goal. Like we said, Moorhead needs to find more support in their scoring. Rasmussen for three. Off the mark, and David can't save it. Ellingson to Anderson. Ellingson is hacked. It's on Grant Erickson, his first personal.
I don't think that three-point shot from Rasmussen was exactly the shot they wanted to get. That's not his bread and butter shot, especially contested as it was.
Ellingson at the line. He has 4 points so far. On the season, 76% free throw shooter, 10.7 points per game. Impressive 51.5% in field goal accuracy. Usually don't see that out of guards. Although as I've followed men's basketball more often this season, I have noticed it is not uncommon to see teams post 50% shooting percentages.
Yeah, it's becoming more common.
Two up. Texas.
Not quite as frequent in the WNBA or women's college basketball, but they're getting there. There's some great shooters out there.
Good look.
Traveling violation on Tyler Flack. And that was the right move. He spun around a little too much, forgot to dribble the ball.
Once again, Flack is getting the ball and he's not getting composed with it. He's taking off, he's making too much of a herky-jerky kind of a move there. He needs to make a more poised move to the basket.
Lean over to Ellingson. Moorhead trying to fight their way back. They led by as much as 9, 18-9. Anderson used up the dribble, finds Boshi. Look at that pump fake, and Flack says no way. There's a little bump, they wanted a foul. Flack can't get the foul, and getting the tip is Ryan Sorella.
Good follow by Sorella. Flack is not being able to finish today. He's not having his best offensive performance of the day, but his teammates are helping him out.
Like we talked about support, and Moorhead has to call timeout. 10:15 left, and Moorhead down to their final timeout now, which could hurt them down the road.
Moorhead takes a 30-second
That was a nice trap. He had nowhere to go in that backcourt. I had to take a timeout or turn the ball over again. And like you said, one timeout, that's 10 minutes left to go. That's big.
So as we take this timeout, we're looking at some of the other coaches in tournament history as we continue our celebration of 100 years of tournament basketball. There's Jim Hastings at Duluth Central. He won 3 state championships, made 9 appearances. As we mentioned, Ken Novak Jr., the Hopkins dynasty, including a 3-peat, looking to make it a 4-peat. Bob McDonald of Chisholm, we mentioned him before, 71, 75, and 91. 11 state tournament appearances, including last year. His best finishes, Class A championship, St. James over Melrose. I wasn't there for that myself. So some of these games, there's another one, the Sweet 16 format, North over St. Thomas Academy. There's Ellingson for 3, no good. You've seen a lot of tweaking too with the boys bracket. With the girls, it was mainly the expansion from 2 to 4 classes. With the boys, they tried that Sweet 16 format, I think trying to get 1 champion. And there's a layup from Grant Erickson for Lakeville North with its largest lead of the game. And then they ultimately settled on the 4-class system. And the Minneapolis North dynasty of 3 straight championships from 95 to 97 was won in those 3 different formats.
Right. And that was a great team. That was back in my high school heyday, so I remember them pretty well.
Khalid El Amin, and of course he won a national championship with UConn, and we'll forever remember that as he went to the CBS cameras and yelled, "We shocked the world," as Duke was heavily expected to win that game.
Yeah, El Amin didn't do really anything in the NBA, but he had a nice high school and collegiate career.
And he's had a very opportunistic and generous overseas career.
Yep.
He was always short for his position. So getting into the NBA, I think a long-term career based on how he played was difficult. I mean, we've seen that in sports. So sometimes if a position you play in, even if you don't fit the bill, can sometimes be hard. But he's made it to a lucrative and successful, fulfilling career. He also helps local kids now with his youth basketball camps. Serves as a father figure to his 6 children. It was fun to see those city teams, even now, as they get bombarded with a lot of the stereotypes. And, you know, Minneapolis North in particular, when they won those state titles, that was during the heyday of the craziness over in Minneapolis.
Right.
So just to get something to give them a rest, as Ken Leon is blocked from behind, Moorhead keeps possession. To get that kind of respite, a brief pause from the dismay and the gloom and the really downer news to have a state championship. There was a huge culture of basketball in Minneapolis North for years, and unfortunately, that's something they haven't been able to replicate in some time. Three-pointer on the way. Bullseye. Eric By. Moorhead needed that one.
Very big shot. Pulls him within 2. 8 minutes to go. Still a lot of time left in this game, but a very big shot.
43-41. That keeps the pressure on Lakeville North. A team with just 1 loss all year. That was to Eastview, the team you will see in the last quarterfinal in 4A. And falling down, getting the bank is Tyler Flack.
A tough shot. That was once again good defense by Boshi. Tyler Flack is able to, a little bit of luck perhaps, but bank shot, falling down.
Backdoor play, goodbye. Camden Boshi. He has 8.
If Moorhead ends up winning this game, which right now they're down, so you know it's not counting anything out, but
they're only down by 2.
Boshi has to be one of their MVPs of this game. His defensiveness and his scoring like that, his ability to make cuts. He's been fantastic for this team today.
Flack missed the putback, and Moorhead with a chance to tie or take the lead on this possession. And another backdoor cut. And this time the recipient is Austin Nelson. I guess he can make 2-pointers as well. He's up to 14. We're tied at 45. And now John Oxton calls timeout with 7:12 remaining. Where did this backdoor play come from?
That was Nelson's first 2-point make of the day. A great find from Boshi. And that high post, found the cutter. Great look. He is contributing all over the stat sheet today.
7:12 remaining. Do you think we'll have another photo finish?
I sure hope so. It's been a fun game. As much as people like to deride defensive basketball, I think it can be pretty exciting. We're not seeing a ton of fouls here.
It's a clean game, like you mentioned, not a lot of fouls, not a lot of stoppages in play, but I enjoy this.
Yeah.
It becomes more of a chess game as opposed to a run and gun type offense, and we've seen that. How offenses or teams geared on high-scoring offenses don't always do well. The Phoenix Mercury come to mind. You know, they had 2 titles, but they got ran out of the building by the Minnesota Lynx this year.
Right.
The Dallas Mavericks for many years. They did finally win a title.
Yep.
The Phoenix Suns.
Steve Nash Suns, yeah, perfect example. You did have teams like the Showtime Lakers who were pretty fast-paced, who were
They had some pretty good defense, though, too.
They did play good defense. That's correct.
You can't just win with offense alone, and that's why I like seeing defensive basketball. It becomes a chess game. You try to outwit yourself as opposed to outwit your opponent. You don't want to outwit yourself or you've got problems. But you see teams making moves, adjustments. They're trying to one-up each other.
Yep.
And then it becomes a game of strategy.
Tyler Flack finally gets a rest. He'd been out there for a while.
Probably resting him up for the final charge because unless Lakeville North goes on a big run, he will be needed.
Yes.
Short range, no good. And the rebound to Boshi.
got to think they're going to get Rasmussen involved here a little bit more, Lakeville. So their leading scorer so far this game, 14.
They're swarming all over Lean, and he can't put it down. That's Kyrell Newell on the rebound. He's got some speed. There's Rasmussen, you mentioned him. He tries, but is short. Offensive rebound, and he's fouled from behind. Ryan Sorella is by Eric Bai.
And Rasmussen's a little bit quicker than Boshi, but Boshi was able to move his feet, stay in front of him, and cause a tough shot. Once again, a great defensive play by Boshi.
And Flack already going back in, so matching lateral movement there.
I think they call that small area quickness now. It's a new term.
Where did all these terms come from? Ryan Sorella with the points in the paint. Lakeville North up 47-45. I'm still trying to figure out, I understand it, but why do you call an inbounds play a side out now? This isn't volleyball. Getting the runner is Lean. Aaron Lean with 13 points now. Leading scorer is Austin Nelson for Moorhead. Nobody on Lakeville North is on double digits yet. David, bullseye. David playing the wild card on Lakeville North's offense in the second half. He has 8.
He's had some big shots too. But it looked like Moorhead's getting some momentum, some steam. He's hit a couple of big shots.
Lean, they set up for Ellingson. Bullseye.
They're matching basket for basket right now. This is great basketball.
I'll see your basket and give you one. That's what I love about this. Not a lot of offense, but some great strategy playing out. This is fun. Rasmussen draws the foul, and he'll go to the line for a pair. For those of you watching at home, this is an example of why you don't always have to score 100 points. I know players like to score. It looks flashy. It goes in the highlights, but good defense is the key to a successful foundation. And there's my cliche of the day, presented by Prep 45. Your school plays here.
And how about the fundamental of free throws? I think you need to give that message out too. As Rasmussen misses the first one.
Do I need to bring up that study again?
I think you do.
We mentioned free throws accounting on average for 20% of a team's total points, and that's why teams and players sometimes ignore it. But not all of them.
Right.
Brittany Griner, a great example over at Baylor. She was a 68% free throw shooter in her freshman year for the Lady Bears, and now she's up into the 80s.
Some pretty good commitment right there. And 20% is not a number you want to ignore.
One reason why she is the lock for the #1 pick in the 2013 draft. David again. Not that time. That would have been big.
That would have been pretty big.
As we enter the closing minutes.
It looked like he rushed that shot. He didn't get set. He went off the wrong foot.
Lakeville North fans trying to throw Moorhead off guard, not going to happen. Lean, short, rebound, David. Tyler David on a little alley-oop to Flack, and he can't hang on, and he traveled. You can jump once, but not twice. I think Flack juked himself out.
Yeah. Yeah, he's rushing today. He's not had a good offensive performance so far. Luckily, they've got some other scorers going, so they're up by a point. But
Ellingson gets the ball past the timeline.
And Austin Nelson has not made a three-point shot so far this half. They've kind of, as you said they would, cut him off in the second half.
Moorhead being patient here. Anderson using up the dribble. Gets to Boshi on the escape. Boshi driving, and he stepped on the line. Ran out of real estate.
Smart job by the Lakeville defenders. Use that sideline as a third man. Create the turnover that way.
The danger when you try to play those baseline games or plays, the out of bounds line becomes that extra defender.
And 3:30 left. This is where every possession counts. You can't afford turnovers or bad shots, especially in a one-point game. So we'll see how the strategy plays out for both teams.
Flack, floater, too strong. Jump ball. Moorhead with the possession arrow, much to the dismay of the Lakeville North fans in attendance.
Once again, Flack went up for the shot. Boshi was right there with a hand in his face, straight up. Another terrific defensive stand.
How about that? Best games in tournament history. I'm looking at one of them. 1946, Lind versus Crosby Ironton, 58-47 was the score in that one.
58. I don't know if either team's going to crack that one, perhaps, but not with passes like that.
Looking at some of the players, Randy Brewer, who played with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think,
Randy
for a
Brewer,
time when they became an expansion team.
That's correct.
Could you imagine if they didn't have this? There's a possibility we could have had the championship games at the Metrodome. I don't know if you remember the first year of the Wolves at the Dome, but I'm glad they built this place.
I went to the Metrodome to see Larry Bird come to town. That was not a great basketball venue, I'll say that.
And they say they want to renovate Target Center. Flack for three. He's short. Off of Lakeville North. Moorhead not out of this yet. And there's Isaiah Dahlman from Bram. Bram known for a long line of successful players from the Dahlman family tree. Rebecca Dahlman making headways now. She broke the all-time career record. I'll get to that point in a bit, but Tyler David's going to the line after he's fouled by Aaron Lean. Great heads-up play, getting the steal.
Lean got into that trap, turned the ball over, couldn't find a teammate, and then a good foul, not letting up the easy layup. We'll see if David can make his free throws here, push it to a three-point lead.
So to finish up that points on the Dahlmans, Bram won 3 straight in the men's side from 04 through 06 on the backs of men like Isaiah Dahlman and Rebecca Dahlman at this very gym last Wednesday broke the career record for most points.
Nice.
And she will be a senior next year. In fact, it's not unreasonable if she stays healthy, she could become the state's first 5,000 point scorer. She's sitting just under 3,900. Lean. He has just not found his shot in the second. But on the plus side, this game is helping us get back on schedule with how quick it's been going. Unless we have an overtime, then all bets are off.
It's not unreasonable.
Lakeville North in the driver's seat here. There is no shot clock, so they could theoretically keep the ball away, but they're in that danger zone. Flack, yes.
Tough shot, good defense, but that's just a great fadeaway shot by Tyler Flack.
54-50, that gives Lakeville North the cushion, and Zimmerman will call his last time out. Flack with just 8 points. As we mentioned, nobody on Lakeville North has more than 9, but they're ahead, and that's what matters.
Balanced scoring with Flack. He hasn't been playing that well today, missed some shots, but he has a very important one to put his team up 4. And Moorhead's had trouble finding the offense. We'll see if they can get something out of the timeout, drop a good play. I would try to get Austin Nelson a 3-point shot attempt again, try to get him open in the corner. They haven't been able to find that much of the second half, but that's been a good play for them that worked very well in the first half. Try to go back to that.
One more time, we want to remind you, you can order a DVD copy of this and any of our tournament games. From the quarterfinals to the championship round, just click the Purchase DVD link on the right side of the screen. Prep 45, your official online home of the Minnesota State High School League tournaments. Your school plays here.
And if you'll notice, Lakeville holds opponents to an average of 50.6 points per game. And where's Moorhead right now? 50 points. Moorhead holds teams to about 56 points per game. Lakeville's at 54. So playing to the averages right now.
I'm pretty sure that you can't get 0.6 of a point.
It's hard.
I know you tried making up that once at a preview of yours. I think you had the Wolves scoring 87.5 points.
It's possible.
In one of your statistically accurate, factually correct game previews.
Exactly. Darko's shots only account for 0.5, so, you know.
Austin Nelson missing the three-pointer. And that could be the break Lakeville North needs.
That's the play that they should have gotten. That was a good shot, good look. Just didn't fall down.
Bounce pass to Flack, and he can't put it down. Who got the tip in?
Wow, that was Ryan Sorella.
Sorella with the tip in. Out of nowhere.
Now Moorhead really needs to go.
Lean is fouled. That stops the clock, but that may also help Lakeville North in a sense.
What could have been a huge momentum play if Tyler Flack misses that. Moorhead gets the board, gets an easy basket because of it. It's a 2-point game. Instead, it's a 6-point game. And Lakeville's in the driver's seat.
And they're hoping to put Moorhead in park in about 34 seconds. Overall, though, a much higher quality slate of games than the girls' tournament. I covered the girls' tournament, and most of those games were decided at about this point in the game. Here, a lot more strategy. Games coming down to the final minute or so. We're just seeing how 100 years of growth and expansion is playing into the quality of this 4A bracket.
Yeah, and I think you have teams that play very smart basketball, a lot of good coaching that I've seen, playing to their team's strengths. But this game's not over. We'll see if they can make their free throws. That was a problem for Woodbury when they gave up the lead that they had late in the game. So we'll see if Lakeville can close it out here.
Free throws aren't automatic, but
it's a good start.
Grant Erickson getting the job done. By the way, that tip in from Sorella gave him 11. The first Lakeville North player to break double digits, and it took over 37 minutes to make it happen. Erickson makes both free throws. Now he has 10. Lean kicks out to Ellingson for 3. Bullseye! Moorhead can't stop the clock, though. They have no timeouts left. And that's the only way they can, getting a deflection. 18.7 left. Moorhead on the ropes, but not eliminated just yet. And we don't have the full box score with us, as Erickson will go back to the line here as Moorhead is in the penalty. But I'm looking at the balance. You got Erickson with 11, or Erickson with 10, Sorella with 11, Tyler David with 9, Flack with 8, Trey Hyde with 7. Everyone on Lakeville North has stepped up. Moorhead, different story. Most of their scoring comprised by 3 players, Ellingson, Hansen, and Lean.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's balanced scoring is not necessarily a good thing for every team, because sometimes that means your best scorers are not getting going. But in terms of Lakeville, that's what they've done all year. They don't have a guy who averages 20 points a game like Lean, for example, on Moorhead. So they do have to rely on balanced scoring.
Moorhead trying to set up the 3 again, and it's Ellingson, and that's off the mark. Lakeville North will survive and advance. And another case of the underdog just not having enough in the tank to pull off the upset, but another classic finish here at Target Center.
It was a good effort. Moorhead, like we said, was not the favorite coming in, but they stayed close. Boshi played fantastic defense. He's very good. Lean under his average, but still had some nice plays. But ultimately, Lakeville's just too good down the stretch.
We talked about defense, and both schools coming in very sound on defense, and that's what it came down to. Lakeville North simply coming up with the better moves in this chess match. And the 2C will survive. Lean fires another three, that's short, but Lakeville North picks up a win, and they will move on to the semifinal round where they await the winner of Eastview and Eden Prairie. Final score 61-55. Like you said, it doesn't suit all teams, but with Lakeville North, all-around balance saved their skin.
It did. Tyler Flack was struggling, and his teammates really picked up the slack for him offensively. Cirilla and David particularly. David hit some key shots down the stretch to really stem some Moorhead runs. So that balance scoring did definitely play to their advantage. Rasmussen also had some nice baskets for them.
We have one more quarterfinal coming your way in Class 4A, Eastview and Eden Prairie, and then we move on to the 2A slate. Of course, this game will not air in chronological order, but just to give you an idea, once again, Lakeville North wins 61-55. You can order a DVD copy of this game and any of our tournament games. Click the purchase DVD link on the right side of the screen. For Tim Allen and everyone here at Prep 45, I'm Mike Beaton. Thank you for watching.